Hi everybody. For this how-to, I want to show you how to connect a point motor to a switch via a capacitor discharge unit, and then to automate it even more by showing you how to set up light indicators depending on which way your points are facing. To do this, I'm going to use a number of components. I'll be using the capacitor discharge unit. There are a number of these on the market of different capacities, and the better ones come with 4 points that you can just simply screw into, such as those. Some you have to solder on, and these ones are fairly straightforward. Some have LED SMDs on them, so when you plug them in, the SMD comes on when the capacitors are fully charged. And you come with 4 inputs, 4 points, 2 inputs, and 2 outputs to the switch or whatever you've got connected up. I'll also be using, as mentioned, the points position indicator. I'll explain more about that later. For this exercise, I'll be using the this is just a simple laptop charger. I've got a number of these lying about. This is just a generic one. I've got some Dells and so on. I just cut the block off the end. And they all seem to come with ferrite blocks, which reduces electrical noise, which is not needed in this case. So I just cut them off. This is 19 volts and 1.58 amps. You can get various types of laptop power supplies. I'll also be using 2 LEDs to connect to this, plus bits of wiring. Now, this exercise is just showing you how to connect it all up. I'll assume you will have your own wiring set up. So your control panel could be the opposite end of the layout to something like this. Your capacitor discharge units would more than likely be by the points, or it again could be behind your control panel, because these can control quite a few points. Because more often than not, you're only flicking 1 point at a time. So this should control quite a few, as does this. This controls up to 8 sets of points or whatever you've got connected to it. I'll be using just a simple Hornby points motor. I'll explain more about that, where you've got 2 solenoids with 3 connections, a common in the centre, and you've got the green and red connections. Now, depend on which 2 are powered, would depend which way the pin goes. So if those 2 are powered, it'll go that way. Those 2 are powered, red and black, it'll go that way. For simplistic reasons, I've connected the terminal block, electrical block. You'll find, once you see this, and if you are interested in practicing it, you could use a number of these blocks in different locations around your layout with the wiring we'll go into to make things easy, and you'll see what I mean as we go along. I'll be using a simple on-off switch. On-off-on switch to flick the point either way. I've already pre-soldered the wires on to cut down on time. I'll do a selection of short videos and put them all together rather than have just this big long one for me. So what I'll do now is I will connect the switch and point motor up to the capacitor discharge unit, and I'll take you through the wiring and how I did that. So that's the next part. See you in a bit. Right, hi again, welcome back. What I've done now is I've made a simple connection between the point motor, the switch and the capacitor discharge unit. You don't need that if you want to make it even simpler to make this work, but you will find your points will flick more precisely if you have a discharge unit there, so it can power constant power to your points. As mentioned, you can connect. I haven't tested yet how many point motors I can connect, but you can connect a number of point motors to it. But what I've done at this part is I've connected the input from your power source. I showed you the laptop, generic laptop power supply. I've connected that to the input, positive and negative, and these two are common output. Between the switch and the point motor, I've connected the common from the switch to the common positive on the output, and the common from the point motor to the minus output on the discharge unit. I've had to use blue, by the way, for my common, because I couldn't find my black, which was strange because I've got lots of it somewhere, but I've packed an awful lot away now until I can start my layout again. So yeah, I just created a simple connection. These blocks, by the way, all this is all dependent on where you have your capacitor discharge units, whether you want them close to points, whether you want them behind the control panel next to your switches with the other device. All depends on your wiring setup, how simple you want to make it, how complicated you want to make it. Again, you can have multiple power blocks, electrical blocks, with lots of feeds coming in and going out, rather than lots and lots of wires everywhere. But I'll try it and we'll see. I'll put the point motor on this. I'm going to assume it's going to bounce around, and you can see that. Hopefully you make out the pin there. So if I flick it, and it's instant, gets an instant charge from this capacitor setup. So there's hardly any delay. Whereas if it was just straight connections, there will be a latency, depending on your wiring setup. But these are much better. They're not only used for these sort of things, you can use them to power all sorts. So what I'll do now is I'll connect the points position indicator within this circuit, and I'll show you how it's wired up and the benefits of it. These position indicators are designed to make, believe it or not, make life easy, because there are other ways of setting up this sort of circuit. So you can flick a point motor. Again, you don't need that. You don't need lights. Indicator lights, in my opinion anyway, are much better if you can see which way your points are going visually using lights. But anyway, I'll connect the point position indicator up now, and I'll explain that. Thanks a lot. Right, welcome back. What I've now done is I've introduced the point position indicator within this circuit. I've just showed you. I'm trying to get all this in shot. The wiring between the point motor and the switch hasn't changed. It's still the same setup. However, what I've introduced is another common wire going into the point position indicator and the green and red. Now remember, this is the input side of the point position indicator, and these are the outputs. So this side is receiving a signal from something, passing it through to the output, depending what you want on this side. Again, if I find that the lights I showed you in a previous video, I'll connect them up and show you what you can do with those on your layout. So once you've connected up all the wiring, again, it's pretty sensible really. The common wires go to the common point. There's only one common point on the very end. The rest are all inputs. So you're inputting something into the point indicator. In this case, it's the point motor. And you want to give an output based on the points. And the capacitor, again, you don't need that. But my advice would be to use one to supply a good strong charge to your points. And a switch, again, nothing's changed from the previous part of this video. All I've done is added this bit. Again, you don't need this. You can connect lights directly up to it. This is to make life easy by connecting multiple lights up to a simple circuit such as this, rather than having lots and lots of wires everywhere. You could have one power going into a block, terminal block, with multiple wires coming out to this system. And once you've connected all the wires up, you can test it. You'll see one of the SMDs. There's two SMDs, one input and one upload, or output rather, or upload. It's UP on this. So you're uploading the information to something. So if you've got all the wiring correct, not only should your switch, point motor rather, switch, the input light should flash to indicate that you've sort of the switch flicks to one side, the point motor rather, and the input SMD flashes. I'm sure you should just be able to make that flashing, the SMD on there, and the point motor flicks over the pin on it. Now what I want to do now is add these two LEDs to the output side of this. Now the output on this has A1 to A8, A being anode and C1 and C2 being cathode. So you have the anode and cathode, like positive and negative in other words, on the LEDs, and they just simply go in to the output side, anode, and the input side, cathode. So what I've done, I'll join these two anodes together, red, and these will go to the cathode side. And again, you can have a terminal block with two wires coming out and multiple wires going to wherever. There probably is a limit to what this can control. You will have voltage drop, but again, it's only momentary. So what I'll do now is I'll connect these lights up, the LEDs, to this, and to supply power. All I need to do now is go to the input of the capacitor discharge unit and just connect it to the power input on the, where is it? Points in position indicator. I've got a terrible memory. So it'll be positive and negative from here, because it's getting a feed from the power supply to the input, power input. So all I'm going to do is just like daisy chain it from there to there. Again, terminal blocks will do a much better job than this. This is just to show you simple circuitry on connecting devices together to automate lights and things in a more simple fashion and more reliable. So I'll connect the lights up now, and that'll be the final part of this video. See you in a bit. Hi, welcome back to this final part of connecting point motors up to a switch and LED indicators. So what I've done now is I've connected up the power supply, power source rather, from the capacitor discharge unit into the point indicator, which will then wait for a signal from the switch and the device it wants to do something with. It'll then take that input and produce an output, depending on what's connected to the cathode and anode. So now when I plug it in, you'll see it flicker as it initializes the board. So you will see a flicker, which is normal. So I'm just going to plug it in. Okay, so now we've got the red light will show while the point motor is in one position. If I then flick it, try and do that with one hand, you see the lights changing. I hope you can see the red and green changing. And again, the flicker on the board, you'll see the green light on the output as well. Change from green to red, green to red. If you find whatever colours you use, you might use two green, because all you want to do is show which way the points are facing. So if you have a control panel, you could have them on the control panel. So your LED would be on the panel, and it'll be on either side of your points, as represented on the control panel circuit diagram. So when you flick the switch, it changes to green, depending on which way the train's going to go. If you're using two different colours and you find, oh no, you wanted the red on that side, you just swap the cathodes over, and then it'll change which light comes on, depending on the point position. So yeah, it looks a bit like Spaghetti Junction, but it makes sense when you start wiring these things up. Again, as mentioned, your control panel will be in one part of your layout. Obviously, your point motors will be another part of the layout, and in several positions around the layout. Your capacitor discharge unit could be in your control panel, with wiring going to terminal blocks, or chock boxes, or circuit blocks, electrical blocks, depending on what you want to call them. And this, I would imagine this would be behind your control panel. If you use one of these, again, you don't need to use one if you want to do a lot of wiring, to change colour depending on the switch position and your points position. If anybody wants me to send you a document of all the components I've used and how I wired it, please let me know and send me a private message with your email address, and I'll send it to you. So this is at the end of the video, unless I find the lights you find on layouts that stop trains or let trains go depending on red or green. If I find that, I'll shove that in as a final part. But if not, that's the end of this how-to. Thank you very much. Okay, final part. I found the lights. These are very old, by the way. But I mean, I don't know very much about lights at the moment on a layout and what certain lights are supposed to do to control trains. I'm very much a novice with regards to lights on a layout. But yeah, what I've done, I've taken out the point position indicator. I just kept it simple again, with just a switch and a discharge unit. So if I flick the switch one way, you get green. Other way, you get nothing. Wonder why. There you go. So that's that. Thanks very much for your time. As mentioned, if you want a copy of, or a Word document rather, of a list of components, please let me know. Bye for now.